Las Vegas for the Jim Feist Sports Betting Show from Dom DeMarco's here in Las Vegas. Each week, we are in the studio or in the patio, I should say, at Dom DeMarco's. And there's a lot of people come and watch the show live. We're not there this week because of some technical issues with our producer being out of town. So we're just doing it here. Right now, I have on Matt Youmans, who's a good friend, and he's been in the business for a long time, journalist. He's worked with ESPN and then New York Post and of course, Las Vegas Review Journal for 16 years. He's been with VSiN. He's a senior editor at VSiN, which is the Vegas Sports Information Network. You can find it on vsin.com. Great show. And Matt does a great job with it. He's a very, very knowledgeable man about all kinds of sports. And then this past summer, I got to say this, Matt produced this report on fast food. And I got to tell you, it's unbelievable. Great job. Matt, that had to take you weeks to do that.
Jim, that's, I think, the 6th year I've done that. So I'm used to it by now. Very comprehensive, top 50 fast food power rankings. I actually have a power rankings formula for the fast food franchises that I use. It's very similar to how I put power ratings on college basketball and college football teams. So it's a scientific endeavor, Jim. A lot of people, believe it or not, a lot of people actually love the fast food stuff. But we're moving on. It's football season, and it's great to be here with you. I've told you this before. I know it makes you feel old, but when I was a kid, sitting in front of a black and white TV in my room, I used to watch Jim Feist and Dave Koken on Proline.
Oh my God, that. Now I'm glad. At least I'm glad you didn't say it was before television was invented.
Mm-hmm.
That would really make me old. Chuck, can you hear me? No, we can't hear him. I see him, but we can't hear each other.
Chuck might have his computer on mute. We'll see if we.
Well, he's using a different using Firefox instead of Chrome, and that's probably the issue. But Chuck Edel was supposed to be with us. And I see him on the screen, but he apparently can't talk to us. Now, I'll just give you a little background on Chuck. I've heard about Chuck. I don't really know Chuck. I met him like for 2 seconds one time in a friend's office. But I've heard about Chuck for years and how good he was. And then last year, he wins the Circa Friday Football Invitational with a record, unbelievable record, 77 winners and 44 losses. And, of course, he's back on that in that contest again this year to defend his championship. And Chuck, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but that's a high bar for all of us out there to try to meet. But I wish you luck with that, of course. And I don't know if he'll be able to join us. We have some technical issues. Matt, you and I will proceed and see if he can join us at some point.
Okay.
We have had a couple weeks of college ball, and there's been some surprises. And, of course, the other night, Bill Belichick's team didn't do very well. How much, and I know you work on all these games, college and pro. I don't know how many hours in the day you get. I only get 24. You probably get 48 to deal with and do all you do. What do you think of the nil and the portal as far as making it more complicated to handicap these things?
Well, I think college football is a lot more complicated to handicap. You're right on the money right there. You're talking about a lot of teams that have anywhere from 50, 60. Some have, like North Carolina, 70 new players. I think I read that Purdue has 80 new players this year. Barry Odom, former UNLV coach, has totally remade that roster. So a lot of these teams, I feel like you need to see it with your own two eyes. You can't read and believe all the hype in the preseason. Sometimes it's difficult to evaluate the talent or know how the pieces are going to fit together, how the coaches are going to put the puzzle together with all these new pieces. So I do think you got to be a little bit more careful early in the season. But, once you get a couple games into it, it's the same old game that we've been handicapping and betting for many years. And like I said, week 0 went really well for me. Week 1, not so great. Last weekend, had a couple of losers that I regret, like Texas. Arch Manning, who was overhyped. But I think the handicapping of college football has changed quite a bit. But once we get a couple, 2 or 3 games into the season, it's pretty much the same deal.
It's probably so. When we're talking college, that would affect basketball as well, correct?
Oh, college basketball, yes, but college football's got a lot more turnover in terms of the roster turnover. Jim, this is the era. College hoops, that's true too, but this is the era of unrestricted free agency and no salary cap in college football and college basketball. And this is something we've never seen before in college sports. Nothing like it. I mean, just look at Texas Tech and how much money that school and the boosters are spending trying to build Texas Tech into a winner. It's just, you go around the country at some of the other programs. BYU spending like crazy to try to win them football and basketball. You go on and on.
I've had people tell me that there's going to be some regulation on what's happening because it's a little too out of whack right now. But I don't know when that'll happen or if it'll happen. But that's what I hear. I've backed off a lot in the college because I take the first few weeks and let it kind of settle in before I get any strong feelings and confidence in what they are. So after they play 2 or 3 games, I might have a better idea. So that you don't want to put people's money on stuff when you're not too confident. And I'm certainly not with it right now. The pros is a different thing. And I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's it's better to proceed with caution early in the college football season, and I did in general last week. But I did like a lot of games on the board, and some of them turned out to be wrong sides. But you're never going to win every game every week, and it's handicapping is a fluid situation. You're constantly learning about these teams, and I think in situations now we're learning a lot more, a lot faster in the first 2-3 weeks of the season with a lot of these new teams. Hey. Look, I was not on Alabama last week, but I know a lot of people who were, even some sharp bettors who were on Alabama. How badly was that team overhyped, right? Bama, a 2-touchdown favorite, goes on the road to Florida State and loses by 2 touchdowns. Talk about the most overhyped teams, Jim.
I actually made the mistake. I had Alabama in the first half, and that didn't work out very well.
Yeah, Alabama, Boise, Clemson, Texas. Those were some of the most those were the 4 most overhyped teams in college football, and I think Texas is going to have a chance to regroup and get things together. But those 4 teams, I think, burned a lot of people last weekend.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we start the pro football season tomorrow night with the winner of the Super Bowl. It absolutely destroyed Kansas City last year in the Super Bowl. Of course, Kansas City had the offensive line problems, and Philadelphia has some tremendous defensive line players, and they didn't need to rush anybody extra. They just their line alone dominated the game, and basically almost the same thing that happened with Tampa Bay and Kansas City a few years earlier, when Kansas City also had offensive line problems. So a lot of people maybe start to realize how strong and how much it means to have a good or a bad offensive line.
There's no question. That was a big part of my handicap last season at this time. Eagles were my pick to win the Super Bowl. In fact, a year ago now, in the VSiN preseason guide, I picked Eagles over Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And there were 3 of us out of 21 handicappers actually had that. Wes Reynolds had it, and Dustin Sweetelson, the 3 of us had the Eagles over the Chiefs as a preseason prediction. A big part of it was Eagles have an elite offensive line, maybe the best offensive line in the NFL. They've also very strong on the defensive front 7. I like their draft. They helped their defensive secondary with the draft tremendously. And I've always been a big Jalen Hurts believer as well. And I thought he was going to bounce back from a subpar 2023. So everything came together for the Eagles last year at about 16-1 to win the whole thing. I'm not saying the Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I see Sean Payton building something similar in Denver, where you have an elite offensive line. And if you watch both Broncos-Chiefs games last year, the Broncos offensive line manhandled the KC defensive front, Jim. And that's a big part of handicapping. I think a lot of people, not you, but some people overlook. They look at the skill position players, the quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, and maybe the edge rushers, and they don't really look enough at the offensive and defensive lines. And I think Denver right now is building a top 5 offensive line, top 5 defensive line in the NFL. And that's what the Eagles had last year, and that's why they manhandled, dominated the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I think the Broncos are a team you got to watch this season too.
I agree. I think a lot of people are putting down the Chiefs, and I don't believe that they're going to fall that far. But I also have the Broncos winning that division. That's a tough division. Just looking at the coaches, you got 4 coaches that are all Super Bowl coaches. I think the average age of the 4 of them about 65 something years old. They've been around. They're all. I mean, Pete Carroll's got the Raiders, who are right now rated the lowest of the 4 teams in that division. But even them, they could be dangerous as well. I mean, they did bring their quarterback from Seattle, and Pete Carroll worked with Geno Smith in Seattle, and they're putting some pieces together too. Now, the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh and Herbert at quarterback, but they lost an offensive lineman for the season, Slater. And that is a huge loss.
No question, because I felt like since last year, Chargers probably have the best young bookend tackles, offensive tackles in the NFL. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, who was a first-round pick, top 10 pick last year from Notre Dame. Slater goes down, and I do think that's going to be a big loss. By the way, you got to look at I've been high on the Rams the entire offseason. And there's a couple issues you got right now with the Rams. Alaric Jackson, who's supposed to be the left tackle, their stud left tackle, has had blood clots and I believe in his legs, and he's supposed to play this week, but that's a troubling situation, especially when you got Matthew Stafford back there with lower back issues. And that was the first Super Bowl futures bet I made in the offseason was Rams at 30-1. And now we got a left tackle that might not be able to play and a 37-year-old quarterback with a bad back. So I'm not thrilled about that situation.
I was very high also on the Rams. I did not know about that injury that you just mentioned, and that is huge. You're talking about the blindside protection and for a right-handed quarterback. And he's, like you said, 37 years old with a back problem already. I don't know if he had the epidural that they talked about him getting. And I mean, talk about epidurals. They're talking about what the defensive guy just got traded from Dallas, Micah Parsons, having the same problem with his back and getting an epidural before this week's game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are injuries are big. I mean, because if you start taking pieces away from already thin groups, like if you go back to last year, where I thought the Lions might have been the best team and definitely could have made the Super Bowl. They got cluster injuries on defense, and then they got wiped out by the Commanders in the playoffs. So you start getting cluster injuries, especially at a key position like the offensive line or defensive line, and you can really fall apart really quickly. We have the Super Bowl loser from last year playing in Brazil against the Chargers on Friday night. This is a hell of a way to start the year with these kind of games. You got Dallas playing the Eagles on Thursday, and then you have the Chargers playing the Chiefs on Friday. From Brazil, by the way. That's not a home game for the Chargers. That is a neutral game.
Yeah, interesting that the Chargers were willing to give up a home game to the favorite in the division, the AFC West. I mean, typically, you don't want to put yourself in that disadvantage where you're going to give up a home game to the favorite in the AFC West, but the Chargers were willing to do that. I guess they don't feel like their home field advantage is that strong in LA anyway, and I know a lot of people feel that way, and if you go by the numbers, their home field advantage is not that strong either. I'm kind of torn on this. I play mostly underdogs in the NFL. I would say at least 80%, probably a little bit more than 80% underdogs. But I'm not crazy about the Chargers in this game on Friday night. The loss of Rashawn Slater, some questions I've got about the Chargers defense. And, I do think the Chiefs are going to take a step or two back this season. But the Chiefs are probably going to be highly motivated here early in the season off that butt kicking they took in the Super Bowl. And you hear Patrick Mahomes and some of the team leaders talk about it. I think you get a fully focused Chiefs team on Friday night. And Jim, as you know, even those of us who are underdog players have to recognize sometimes the best bet in sports can be a focused favorite. And I think that's what you're getting with the Chiefs on Friday night.
Well, that offensive line problem, and Herbert, is how many times has he actually won a big game, a big marquee game? He's
not too many.
No, it's not. And now we know that how good Jim Harbaugh is as a coach, and coaching matters a lot. Not just the head coach, but the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. It's one of the first things I look at on any of these teams is the coaching. It's going to be a problem because the Chiefs they were embarrassed, and you get a team with that kind of quality. I mean, this team has won that division 9 straight years and been in the Super Bowl 5 of the last 6 or something like that. I mean, this is not a team to take lightly. So I agree with you. This might be actual favorite play.
Might be. I'm not sold on that side yet, but I'm kind of leaning that way, and we'll see if I get there by Friday night. Like I said, I prefer to play mostly dogs. I got to be honest. I've spent the last couple days going through about 50 different Circa Survivor scenarios, and I've got multiple entries in that Circa Survivor contest with a couple of partners, and they're counting on me to pick the right teams this week. And man, it's not going to be easy. I know I'm not going to use the Eagles on Thursday night, and I'm not going to use the Friday night game. So we got the rest of the card to work with. We skipped over that Eagles-Cowboys game on Thursday night. I like the Micah Parsons trade for Dallas, Jim. And if you watch the talking heads, or I like to say a lot of the talking airheads on the ESPN and Fox shows, they're all ripping Jerry Jones and the Cowboys for that deal. But I felt for a long time that fans and the mainstream media a lot of times overrate the value of star players. And Micah Parsons, to me, is an elite pass rusher, yes. But he doesn't defend the run, and he takes a lot of plays off, and I think he's greatly overvalued by a lot of people. Now, the Cowboys in return pick up Kenny Clark, who's going to help their run defense. I know the first 2 first-round picks are not going to help now, but the Cowboys also cannot continue to overpay star players. They overpaid Dak Prescott. They overpaid CeeDee Lamb. They were prepared to make Micah Parsons the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, and you can't continue to build a team that way by overpaying guys when their production doesn't match the contract. So I actually think in a rare case here, I like the move that Jerry Jones made. Typically, he waits till the last minute and he pays his stars top of the market money. And this time he didn't do it, and he traded Parsons. And now we're seeing the Packers dealing with a player who not only is a bit of a diva, but he's got a back issue, and they're not sure if he's going to be able to play in week 1. I like the Cowboys a little bit on Thursday night. Now, not too many people do, but I have to mention I'm playing this 2 ways because about 6 weeks ago I played the Eagles -1 and the Vikings +7.5 on a teaser. But I've got the Cowboys +8 on Thursday night, so hopefully that can fall right in the middle.
Yeah, you bring that up, and I was looking at the line. I saw a couple places today, like BetMGM 9.5 on that game.
Yep.
I mean, this is these numbers are that's a huge number. I mean, what the divisional games this week? There's a lot of them, and you're talking about that particular game and the trade. I can understand both ways on that trade. If Jerry's about 83 or 84 years old, and they haven't really done what was expected of them for about 25 years. And you would think that he would want to win now.
Right.
And I mean, if he was 40 some years old, that's different, or 50. But being that age, it's hard for somebody 83 years old to be building for the future because you don't know what your future holds, at that age. So, that, and of course the fan base is frustrated after 25 years of frustration. So they're looking at it and say, hey, you just traded in their mind, their best defensive player for a 28th and 29th draft choice, possibly because Green Bay's a good team, and then Clark. So what the hell are you doing? You're basically saying we're not trying to win this year. That's their attitude, and I understand them feeling that way. It may not be reality,
Right.
But Jerry has made, like you said, he's made several mistakes in overpaying people. Dak Prescott should not be the highest paid quarterback in football.
No.
He's very good. And a couple of years ago, he had 36 touchdown passes to 9 interceptions. He obviously can play, but he's not better than Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow. That's a ridiculous number. So he does overpay, and he's put himself in a bad position.
And that's part of the reason I like the Micah Parsons trade. You just can't overpay all your stars like that. I thought the Dak Prescott contract was ridiculous. I didn't like the CD Lamb deal. But you can't continue to make deals like that. And I don't know, Jerry Jones, when you listen to him talk publicly, he's lost it. He's losing his mind. He can't keep it together. He can't finish sentences. He's at the end of the road. There's no question about it. The Cowboys going on 30 years without even appearing in an NFC championship game, which is unbelievable when you think about it.
It really is. And I'll bet you those – I'm not a fan, but I bet you those fans are totally frustrated. Interesting game in New York. Pittsburgh, with the quarterback that played at New York last year, and Aaron Rodgers, who is probably one of the best passing quarterbacks ever, but he's also at the end of his career. Age-wise, you do age out at the 40-year mark. And of course, the Jets have Fields, who's not really ever been a remarkable quarterback at the NFL level. They have a new coach as well. And you got Pittsburgh a 2.5 favorite on the road in that game.
Yeah, I really don't want to bet the Jets here. At +3, I think you can make a decent case for betting the Jets. I'm a little bit higher on the Steelers than a lot of people. I played the Steelers over 8.5 wins this season, and this would be one I'm obviously hoping they're going to get. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play a little bit better than a lot of people think. And Rodgers, 41 years old. If you look at the numbers last season, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, not that bad. And he played pretty well in his final 10 games, Jim. And I think he was starting to overcome that Achilles injury a little bit. And maybe Devontae Adams helped, but he had a little bit more mobility. This is one stat that nobody talks about. I've never heard this referenced one time about Aaron Rodgers. Final 10 games of last season, he had 18 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions.
Wow.
You know, if any young quarterback in the league had those numbers, he'd be getting hyped on every talk show there is. But instead, you're hearing Rodgers. A lot of us don't like Rodgers because he's, again, a diva, got a lot of baggage, get tired of his act. But 18 touchdowns, 4 picks over the last 10 games is pretty strong. And I think you're gonna get a Rodgers that's got a chip on his shoulder, or he got something to prove. He's going to play with an edge. I want to put it that way. He's going to play with more of an edge because I think he knows this is his last shot, and he doesn't want to go out the way he went out with the Jets. So I think he's going to be highly motivated here to put a positive spin on the end of his career. Mike Tomlin, 10-7 in each of the past 2 seasons, and I think this team's actually better than what Tomlin had the last 2 seasons. The defense is legit. Rodgers has got a few weapons to work with there. Offensive line's a little bit improved. I talk about weapons, DK Metcalf, tight end Jonnu Smith, solid ground attack with a couple of good running backs. In general, in the big picture, I like the Steelers a lot this season. Played them over 8.5. I'm not sure if I'm going to play this game or not.
Actually, I have them second in their division. So I look at division first because if you win your division, you get in the playoffs, and that's the goal for all these teams. And in this particular case, I mean, they have a tough division. You got the Ravens there, which is a game I want to talk about a little bit coming up. But I bet this game under, actually. I went under 39.5 when it opened. It's down to 38.5 at the moment. And Elksha, at one place, it's 38. So that's what I did with this particular game. I don't know. I like the new coach for the Jets, but it remains to be seen that Fields can actually produce a winner. So that's a big question mark. Are there any other games? I mean, we could talk about every game, but then we'd probably run out of time. We got.
I don't want to talk about every game. There's some games on this schedule this week I'd prefer not to talk about. I'll run down a few of the things I'm looking at here. By the way, you said that about Aaron Glenn, the new coach of the Jets. We think he's going to be good, but we don't know. You don't know that stuff until you see him as a head coach. Is he going to be good in clock and game management situations? You don't know, right? A lot of people thought Robert Saleh was a great hire by the Jets. Turned out not to be. So until you see a guy as a head coach, you just don't know how good he's going to be. And I agree with what you said about Justin Fields. Too inaccurate as a passer. He can make some plays on the run. I think the Steelers' focus is going to be contain him in terms of not letting him get loose, get around the edges and make big plays running the ball. I think the Steelers are going to try to make him beat him with the pass because they know he really can't do that. I'll tell you this. I'm looking at the Giants +6 at Washington. I think the Commanders are going to be popular play in the Circa Survivor contest. The Giants, again, a team I think it's going to be better than a lot of people think. All I've heard the entire offseason is people trashing the Giants on every show, under 5.5. Coach is going to get fired. GM's going to get fired. I actually kind of like this Giants team. Got the toughest schedule in the NFL, and that's a big part of the handicap when you're betting the under. But I think the Giants could be live here against Washington. How about the Browns as 5.5-point home dogs to the Bengals? Zach Taylor, since he's been coach in Cincinnati, you probably heard this 5 times this week, but he's 1-11 in weeks 1 and 2 since he's been the coach of the Bengals. And Joe Burrow's had a lot of problems with the Browns anyway. And laying 5.5 on the road here, I think the Browns are a home dog I'm going to look at this week. Jim, I did like your totals play on the Steelers and the Jets. You're looking at, you bet under 39. I think that's a pretty good bet. I'm going to look, I think, under 44 in the Raiders-Patriots game. Again, I think the Raiders are going to be, even though Geno Smith is their new veteran quarterback, I think there could be a really run-focused offense. Chip Kelly is a run-first play caller. He loves to pound the rock, and that's why they drafted Ashton Genty in the top 10. So I think the Raiders are going to try to control this game on the ground. They're going to use Ashton Genty. They're going to hit Brock Bowers over the middle occasionally. And it's going to be more of a ball control type of game. Plus, I think Mike Vrabel is going to have, I would say, maybe a top 10 defense in New England. I like what he's putting together. So under 44 is one of the totals I like on the card.
Actually, that game, I like both sides of that. I like the Raiders. And I like the under in that game as well, for all the reasons you just pointed out. I totally agree. Yeah. And as far as Cleveland is concerned, we do have I just came back from Cleveland. The one thing they have unpredictable weather. And there is supposed to be some rain. Usually it's the wind that bothers you, but the wind that looks like it might be 12 miles an hour. But that could change in 15 minutes. So I can't – this is too far in advance for me on that. But Cincinnati does have trouble with them. You got Flacco, who's going to use a run-past option very well. And against we don't know what the hell's going to happen with the Cincinnati defense. It doesn't look like it's improved. And if it's not, then Cleveland's going to be able to score on them. And if they can do that, they'll be in the game. And they do have a history of playing tough against the Bengals.
They do. One thing that concerns me a little bit, I don't know how much, maybe I hear too much doing these TV and radio shows every week, a lot of talk shows. I try not to listen to too much sports radio. You try to tune out a lot, but now I'm hearing a lot of, I'll say, public bettors who typically don't play dogs who are on the Browns this week. I don't like, I don't want to be on a public dog in the NFL. Hopefully the Browns do not turn into a public dog, but that's one thing I'm a little bit concerned about this week. I think, you talk about the Eagles on Thursday night. Circa's still sitting at 8, Superbook at 8, DraftKings at 8.5. Eagles and Broncos are going to be the most popular teaser on the board, knocking those down to basically 2.5. Broncos right now 8.5-point favorites over the Titans. I'll probably have the Broncos on a teaser too, and maybe on 1 or 2 Circa Survivor entries, but I don't want to go crazy on this game. In week 1, every year we see a couple of big upsets. And last year was Bengals going down to the Patriots when absolutely nobody thought that was going to happen. So a little bit concerned. Plus, don't like playing the top consensus play in the Circa Survivor, and I think that's going to be the Broncos. this
Well,
week.
I totally agree. That's going to be the game.
Yeah.
Because you got the rookie quarterback and the rookie coach on the road in Mile High, which is already a tough place to play anyway against a great defense. And you got Sean Payton, who's a Super Bowl coach as well. Yeah, they're going to be betting. The survivor pick at number one has got to be Denver. And if they lose, they're going to lose like last year, lose about 70% of the people in Survivor.
Yeah, that concerns me a little bit. I don't want to put too many eggs in the Broncos basket this week. So here's the next game on the card interests me. Obviously, you're going to feel a little bit better if you play the Seahawks plus 8.5 on a teaser. But I'm thinking about playing the Seahawks anyway. They're 2.5-point dogs. I think this is an underrated team in the NFC. I really like the coach, Mike McDonald, and he's an outstanding defensive coach, by the way. And they're going to run the ball. They got two talented running backs, an improved offensive line. I have to get over the Sam Darnold hurdle because that's a quarterback I don't believe in, and it's tough for me to bet on Sam Darnold. Kevin O'Connell did such a great job with him in Minnesota last year, but now he's not under Kevin O'Connell's wing. But I think the Seahawks are going to be a team to watch this season, and Seahawks might end up on my card as 2.5-point home dogs. What do you think of that game?
Well, I agree with you. I did not bet this game, but and the reason I didn't, because normally I would the divisional home underdog in a situation like this with the teams coming off 5 wins last year, San Francisco. You don't know, they've had some issues too, and players are getting older. But Sam Darnold is he's huge question mark. He did have a remarkable year last year. I don't think anybody expected that him to do what he did, and then got to the playoffs and he just fell apart again.
Yeah. He fell apart in Week 18 at Detroit, and then in the playoff game, he was terrible in the final 2 games. And, that kind of sticks in the back of your mind when you're thinking about betting the Seahawks here. How's Sam Darnold going to screw this up? And I'm a little bit concerned about that. How about Lions-Packers? Can you talk me onto one side or another on the total? 47.5, Packers 2.5-point favorites?
This is another divisional game, and divisional games are generally tight because they know each other well. And divisional games, of course, are more important than any other game because, like I said, if you win your division, you're in the playoffs, and their goal is to get in the playoffs and have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. So these games are very tough. The total has not moved. Oh, actually, it did. 49.5 down to 47. And now Green Bay, of course, with the addition of Parsons, we don't even know if he'll play, but if he does, the addition of them, they've picked up the money on this. So they're gone from a 1.5-point dog, now 2.5-point favorite. And now Green Bay, of course, is favored to win that division. Love is one of those kind of guys. I'm not 100% sure he's as good as we had thought he was. But he the potential, and they have a good coach, really good coach. Detroit, on the other hand, that they lost not only their center, who's really a great player because he retired, and then they lost their 2 coordinators, which is really, they were both very good at their jobs. And now you lose both. You have to replace them. You got to replace the center. You got to go on the road. You got to play Green Bay, which is a big rivalry. And Green Bay has a tremendous record of winning these first games at home. To me, if I'm betting Green Bay, I'm probably not laying the points. I'll probably play the money line.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Packers or pass for me, but this is another game we got to look at a little bit more. I'm not even sure Micah Parsons is going to make much of an impact in this game based on the fact he's apparently got a back issue that's still bothering him, and he's not even sure if he's going to get on the field. So a lot of people are so excited about the Parsons addition, but he might not even help the Packers in this game.
And they only paid him $188 million.
Jim, it's only 136 guaranteed.
Oh, is that all? I feel bad for him.
The average contract is $47 million per year, but I think 136 guaranteed. But again, I'm pretty sure he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, and I don't think he deserves that deal. But the Packers, like you said, it's a win-now league, and the Packers think they become the division favorites, and they can win the NFC if they have a pass rusher like Parsons. So I understand the trade from their perspective. I just like the deal a little bit more for Dallas. Hey, one thing I was going to mention to you, I got this from Evan Abrams at the Action Network. We talk about this every year. One thing to keep in mind, 4 divisional home dogs here in week 1. We're going to talk about one here in a minute on Monday night. But the divisional home dogs are the Bears, the Browns, the Falcons, and the Seahawks. Week 1 divisional home dogs are 23-7 against the spread since 2010. I think 18-4 in the last 22 games. So that's something to keep an eye on. We got some divisional road dogs this week too, obviously, but those are the 4 home dogs.
Yeah, that's pretty much a standard to go after those, and it makes sense. It does. There's a lot of familiarity. You're playing at home. The fans are hyped up. Players are hyped up. It's a good spot. Now, you mentioned the Tampa Bay Atlanta game as being one of the dogs. Now, I think I told you this a couple of weeks ago. I have Tampa Bay getting into the NFC Championship game, and they won this division several years in a row. They're well coached. Baker Mayfield has grown up a lot from the time he was with Cleveland. He is really a warrior. He's well respected. He plays hard, and he plays when he's hurt, which a lot of the players, they respect that. And they got a good wide receiver group. They have some offensive line issues with Wirf, and how bad that is or how long that'll last, I don't know. Atlanta's coming in with a Penix, and he put up some numbers, but their right tackle is hurt, and he's left-handed, so that's his backside, his blind side, I should say.
I think you're talking about Tristan Wirfs
for Tampa, yeah. But I think Atlanta's right tackle also got hurt.
Okay,
and that would be a negative for Penix. So. But this is a tough spot for Tampa to open the season on a favorite at Atlanta, who is really their only rival in that division, because the other 2 teams in that division are just absolutely bad, in my opinion, especially the Saints. So that's a tough one, but that is one of those home dogs, and the stats are all showing that the home dogs do very well. What do you think of that game?
Well, it's funny because I was talking about this with a guy yesterday who's pretty sharp betting the NFL. And he loves the Falcons in the game, but he said his much bigger bet is going to be teasing the Falcons up to plus 8.5.
Okay.
He said he's going to have a lot more money on the teaser at plus 8.5 than the Falcons on the side. But he liked the Falcons a lot. I kind of lean that way too. Last year, Bucs won the division. They won the division 4 years in a row, I believe. The last time they did not win the division was when Tom Brady was quarterback and they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
Didn't win the division that year. But I like Baker Mayfield. The problem is Bucs have got some injury issues coming into this game. No Tristan Wirfs, no Chris Godwin. McMillan's out. They've got some injury issues here. So I kind of lean home dog. But, again, this is one of those where, like, it's similar to the Seahawks, obviously feel better teasing this up to plus 8.5.
Let me ask you about teasers. I like teasers. When you're being selective. Vegas, some of the Vegas books
prices
have made the prices very, very high.
Well, that's because you can win. You can beat the teasers. The books are getting beat on the teasers, and they've been a really good play for the player. I know a Las Vegas pro bettor, Chris Sanook, who kills it on teasers, NFL teasers every year. And I think he said he didn't do that great on sides or totals last year, but he absolutely killed it on teasers. And that's why the books have to raise the prices. They're getting beat on these. If you can beat the books on something, you got to look to play it if you got an edge. And that's the only time. I don't really play any teasers in college football. I might play a few the entire season, maybe 3 the whole year. But I'll play some in the NFL. Unfortunately, you're right. The prices have gone up, and you got to pay the price now if you're going to play them. But I'll probably have a couple this week. I do want to mention, I know we're going to talk about more games coming up here, finish out the card. Dom DeMarco's, where you're going to be doing the show every Wednesday at noon, right?
Correct. And I wanted to mention Dom DeMarco's. It's a great Italian restaurant on West Charleston. I live right down the street from him, so I'm there a lot.
Mhm.
And the food is great. Albert Scalliot's a great guy, good friend, and the host, he's the host. He owns the place. The service is great. The food is great. It's always clean, well taken care of. Uh, I love doing the show because I'm like with you today. I like talking to really smart, winning players, and everybody's a handicapper. So because if you're betting the games, you're making your own choices. But to win betting sports, when you're laying 110 or 111 or 105 or whatever that is, and then it's not easy. But there are people that do it, and the show is that group of people are on the show. Like yourself, you've been doing this a long time, 25 years probably in the journalism, covering sports and betting it. Now, senior, you're heading up VSiN, and you were at Las Vegas Review Journal. You worked with Dave Koken for many years, who's a good friend, and unfortunately he's passed away. But dealing with and sitting with every week at that show is really a privilege for me to do it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it was a good thing last year. I thought it was really it's going to be better this year, and you had a lot of great guests on the show last year. Some really sharp guests, really sharp, some sharp guys, and we also had Paul Bovey out there.
Oh, he'll love that after, especially you guys used to keep going after each other.
Paul Bovey, I don't know if you know this, Jim, but Paul Bovey is referred to in Mexico as the mayor of the Hong Kong Club.
Oh, I did not know that. He might say the same thing about you. I don't know.
No, it's not true.
I don't even know what the hell a Hong Kong Club is.
You don't want to know. You know what? I was out at Dom DeMarco's yesterday having lunch with Al Scalliot, and he promised me the world's best steak sandwich. And I got to say, it was pretty good. So I was out there yesterday with Al having lunch, and Dom DeMarco's is now the official food sponsor of Monday Night Football on VSiN Primetime, and the official food sponsor of Thursday Night Football. So we're going to have Dom DeMarco's pizzas, meatballs, all sorts of stuff in studio on Monday and Thursday nights. And
awesome.
And by the way, you're going to be part of the Circa Friday Football Invitational this season. 25 handicappers. Derek Stevens putting up $30,000, and it's the most popular show on the network. The Friday nights with 25 sharp handicappers giving out their 7 best bets for the weekend. This show has really exploded in popularity. This is going to be the 4th year we're going to do it. And Chuck Edel could not join us here today, but the sound is not going to be an issue Friday night. Chuck's going to be in studio with me at 4 p.m. Pacific for about an hour. And the Iceman is the defending champ in the Friday Football Invitational. So you will get to hear from Chuck Edel on Friday night.
Well, I'll definitely be listening to that. And I think you mentioned something about Monday. And if I don't have to go out of town for one day, I'll be there. Because I think you mentioned to Al Scalliot about being there. No, I was looking forward to Chuck being on because I really don't know Chuck, but I've heard about him for 20 years. And I did talk to him earlier today on the phone, and we had a great conversation. But then he had technical problems to being on the show, so we'll have to replan that again and set it up somewhere else. But it's been great, and I want to thank you for doing this show with us. And I always enjoy. You're a good friend, and it's. Is there any other games you want to talk about? There is one game I want to ask a question. Buffalo is considered to be the number 1 pick to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC.
Right.
However, and this confuses a lot of people, it doesn't confuse me because I understand what's happening. They're at home against Baltimore. They opened a 1.5 point favorite, which isn't very much. Basically, that's all you give for home field anymore, 1.5. But a place like Buffalo, you might make it 2.5 or 3 because it's strong home field, I should say. But now, I mean, BetMGM has Baltimore -1. Bet365 has Buffalo -1. Caesars has it pick 'em. I mean, I could go down 11, 12 books, but now isn't that saying that the odds makers were someone in there with big money coming in and betting it, saying Baltimore is actually better than Buffalo?
And I think they probably are. So I bet the Bills in that playoff game, that divisional playoff game, and I felt like I got a little bit lucky there. Obviously, Lamar Jackson coughed up a fumble. Mark Andrews dropped a pass down by the goal line, and the Bills escaped. I'm not sure the Bills are going to escape. And Buffalo's got some issues on that defense right now. But Baltimore definitely rolls in there with a better defense. And, probably a little bit of, even though I don't want to overplay the revenge angle, probably a little bit of revenge. And obviously shooting for the top seed in the AFC too this season. But last night, Circa went to Ravens -1, and it flipped on that. And DraftKings has still got Bills -1.5. If you're looking at the screen right now, Pick'em, we'll just call this basically a Pick'em game, but those are the numbers you can get out there. I like, I would say John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson right now, pretty dependable coach-quarterback combination. And Baltimore's got the better defense. I still think Buffalo's issues on defense are going to be a problem, especially in the first half of the season. I'm not sure they got those figured out yet. And I do lean Ravens in this game. It's not going to be my favorite play of the week, but I lean Ravens in this one. I thought they probably should have won that playoff game, but they made a couple big mistakes. And I can understand why Circa was taking Ravens money and flipped them to the favorite there. That's a hell of a game Sunday night, though, Jim. When you think about Baltimore, Buffalo, Ravens, and the Bills, the two strongest division favorites in the NFL, right? The Bills are the biggest favorites in their division, and the Ravens are the second biggest favorites, second strongest favorites. And and if you think back to that playoff game and how it could have gone either way, that's a great Sunday night way to kick it off. But I think I'm going to be on the Ravens side here.
I already bet them. I took the 1.5 on the Ravens. When I look at a game like this and I say, okay, everybody in the world thinks the Buffalo is going to be in the Super Bowl or at least win their division, and not only their division, of course, the division is very light, but the conference, I should say. But then they're at home and they're not really laying any points. They're saying the other team automatically, if there was a neutral game, Baltimore would be a 2.5-point favorite, maybe even 3. Right. So it's pretty obvious that something is, the media is saying one thing, the odds makers and the bigger bettors, the sharp bettors, are saying another thing, and the media is never right anyway. So that's what I went in that direction. There is one more game on Monday night. I don't know if we want to touch on it or not, but you got two. One is a rookie quarterback, but they're both rookie quarterbacks, sort of. But the one didn't play last year because of an injury. You got a brand new head coach, came over from Detroit, offensive coordinator. Can he be a head coach? We don't know that. Anytime you move up from those positions, you don't know if you're going to be able to perform or not. But Minnesota's a 1.5-point favorite at Chicago. 44 is the number on total. So is it Caleb Williams going to actually perform like they thought he should? And is J.J. McCarthy going to be able to step up from his college days, which he was a pretty good player? But the roster-wise, Minnesota has a fantastic roster.
Yes.
And they have a hell of a head coach. This is the same head coach that turned Sam Darnold into a superstar for most of last season. So this is a tough one. But Minnesota is favored at Chicago.
Well, as I mentioned earlier in your show here, it was about 6 weeks ago, I played that teaser with the Eagles -1 and the Vikings +7.5. And that was when the Vikings were 1.5-point dogs, obviously. Now they're 1.5-point favorites. And I kind of anticipated this number was going to flip. When you look at the Vikings roster, like you just mentioned, definitely a stronger roster across the board. I like every aspect of this Minnesota team, and especially the coaching, really good coaching. J.J. McCarthy is a big question mark for a lot of people. I think he's going to be pretty good. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league, but top 15. He's got some mobility when he gets outside the pocket. He can be an accurate passer. Obviously, it's tough to back a essentially a rookie quarterback in his first start on the road. So that gives me a little bit of hesitation here. But at the same time, I just don't, Kevin O'Connell's not going to ask him to go out and be the hero and win the game because the Vikings got so many other ways they can win the game. I don't know what Caleb Williams is going to look like. He's essentially he's a wild horse, and Ben Johnson's got to find a way to put a saddle on him. He's an improvisational quarterback. He doesn't play within the offense or the script, and he just when plays start to break down, he runs outside the pocket and he tries to play backyard football. And Ben Johnson's trying to train him to play a different way. I don't know how long it's going to take. There's going to be some games where he looks really good and some other games where he looks really bad. So a little bit torn on this. It's an outstanding Monday night game, but I like the position I took on this 6 weeks ago, having the Vikings plus 7.5 on the teaser. I'm just not sure what else I'm going to do with it, if anything, on Monday night.
I would not think that you would see a lot of points in this game. I think both teams are going to be a little conservative. It might be an underplay.
Okay.
Last year, I give the numbers. I'm not too ashamed. My sides were 57%. My totals were 69%. So, it's kind of one of the problems when playing contests. They don't have totals in most of them.
Right.
So, they're much better in totals than sides. At least that was the way it turned out last year. But I like the total under here, especially if you can get 44.5, you at least get the hook on there. Because that's kind of, you're dealing with numbers that might hit. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I don't know what the hell to think of Williams. He got 6 sacks. He got sacked 68 times last year. Now, a lot of that was because he holds the damn ball too long. But if Johnson can turn him around, I don't know.
I think he probably can, but I don't know how long it's going to take, right? And maybe he can't. Maybe Caleb Williams is one of those quarterbacks who can't play within the structure of an offense. I'm not sure. There's some things about him I don't like. I know that. And I was a big Jaden Daniels fan before the draft and not a Caleb Williams fan. And that Take is looking pretty good so far. But I'm always a little bit skeptical about the Bears. Jim, when I worked in Chicago in the late 90s, I was a beat writer, covered the Bears, and I also covered the Bulls for the last 2 championships. I covered the Bears for 5 years, and they never once made the playoffs. And they've just got a history of poor quarterback play in that franchise. We'll see if Ben Johnson can change that with Caleb Williams, but it's one of those situations for me. I need to see it to believe it. I never go in with blind faith that the Bears are going to be good or the Bears are going to surprise people or overachieve.
Yeah, the last Bears team that was remarkable was 85 or 86. That was a hell of a team. Right. But since then, it's been a little frustrating. But Matt, I want to thank you for doing this, and especially since we had a problem getting Chuck Edel on, and that was disappointing. But its technical issue wasn't anything personal. It's just he couldn't connect. We could see each other, but we couldn't hear each other.
Right.
And so that was. But I want to thank you for stepping in and helping out and carrying the ball here with me. I think this is a great show. We will be live at Dom DeMarco's in West Charleston on the 10th of September and every week after that. Tom Canale, who's promoting his book on the book tour, he wrote a book about the Buddy Holly plane crash in 1957, where the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly died in that crash. And he wrote this book. It's obviously a very good book, and it's selling well. But we'll be there next Wednesday. And Matt, I hope to see you again this year. Oh no, I'm going to see you maybe Monday at Circa. Right.
I'll see you again soon. I'll definitely be out at Dom DeMarco's on Wednesdays when I can make it. And don't forget the Iceman, Chuck Edel's going to be on a Friday night show with me at 4 p.m. Pacific on VSiN.
I do have to ask this question. Why do they call him the Iceman?
I call him the Iceman because, first of all, Edel rhymes with Chuck Liddell, and he also looks like Chuck Liddell, the Iceman from the UFC.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. All right.
Very similar in personality, very similar in looks, and he's got a similar name. So we're calling him the Iceman, and I think the nickname fits. Chuck finished second in this Friday night contest the first year we did in 2022, and he won it last year. So he's going to be in studio Friday night, and we'll put the green jacket on the Iceman and give him his trophy. And he's got his $15,000 check already. So, Jim, looking forward to having you in the contest this season as well.
Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate all you do for us. And you've been a remarkable help for this show because you've helped recruit a lot of the people that are on the show. And I really appreciate that.
I just don't blame me for Paul Bobby, okay?
Oh, he's gonna listen to this. He's gonna love it. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
All right, you bet. Thanks, Jim.
Have a good week.
You too.